Anyway, time's 12 past, so I am going to get started. So, hey everybody, welcome once again to Gab's Dojo and to lesson 6. Now, I apologize for the delay. It was my plan to do a lesson last week, but NRS was very kind enough to drop a patch with new variations, and that kind of messed up some of my prep work as well as me wanted to explore some other things. So I'm back now again after a bit of a break, and refresher of last lesson, we were talking about frame data and applications of frame data. Since we're still on level 2 lessons and more technical stuff, this week I want to talk about hitboxes and anti-airs. No, I'm adding anti-airs because I was meant to cover that in lesson 3, 4, relating the art of defense, but I forgot until someone reminded me. So since it has some relations to hitboxes, that's why I'm tagging it along to this lesson. Now I know some people do have understanding of hitboxes, and I know the understanding levels are different, vary from person to person, so hopefully this is just a brief explanation to clear things up and explain why certain things happen. So without further ado, let's get into it. And while I'm getting into training mode, you can play the usual game of pick a stage, any stage. Yeah, I know it says only 4, but there you go. Other students are late, you should give them class attention as punishment. Not a bad idea. Right, so let's go with Mr. Denier and Bihan. Someone want to pick a stage? By all means, please do. Tournament. Is it new? Ah, BGS. Interesting. Haven't seen this stage yet. Jinx, wow. That's a blast from the past. I have not heard that word in a long time. I guess, unless you're a Pokemon fan, then of course you got Pokemon Jinx. Right, so hitboxes. For those who are in the Discord and the Dojo classroom, I posted a picture. It was Street Fighter 4. Not an MK game, but it was M. Bison and him wrapped around in boxes. Basically, because in this game what we see is these beautiful, well designed, dressed characters here, but in reality when you go beyond that, what you actually see is just a bunch of rectangles and boxes which represent the character. And those are essentially what hitboxes are. So in the diagram that or I should say in the picture that I posted, you saw Bison doing a kick and red boxes around the kick and then green boxes around everywhere else. The red box basically represents the hitbox and the green box represents the hurt box. Now, there could be complicated ways to explain this, but simply put, a hitbox is basically the area of where an attack will hit an opponent, and the hurt box is the area where an opponent can be hit. So as characters move around, their hitboxes change. Hit and hurt boxes change. Watermelon, do you think it would be good for hitboxes and hurt boxes to be shown in practice mode? Absolutely. I wish NRS would do this for this game. I wish they'd do it for the next game. Killer Instincts actually has it in their practice mode, and that's really helpful. I know Street Fighter did not, but there were PC mods that were able to allow you to have hitboxes displayed, so it basically would help answer a lot of questions about how certain things interact. So in regard to hitboxes, how you move changes a hitbox of a character. So me as Jade standing, that hitbox will just be pretty much a standing rectangle around her, but when I crouch, the top part of the hitbox will shrink down towards his head, but the base body will widen outwards. And similar to when you block, that also increases it upwards and outwards. So it's a reason why if I record noob, just smash in standing 2, when you neutral duck, it dodges it, because high moves do not clash with the hitbox of a crouching opponent. But when you block, you extend your hurt box and then it connects. Like so. So that showcase in itself was also why earlier in the game, there was big complaints about highs not working. So when, if for example, let me set noob to duck and auto. When people used to do down 1 into standing, that would miss. Despite when talking about frame data, that into this should jail. Though I'm doing this deliberately slow to showcase the example. And that was mainly because the hitboxes of standing jabs seemed to be too small, to the point that even though it should jail, people were able to dodge them. So when they did their first big patch, they addressed it, and now, if I can even do it right, there we go. That's now a lot more consistent across the cast. New Scrunts needs a lot of cough drops. Probably does, you know. But then again, being in another realm all that time, all that smoke, all that ash, yeah, that's going to affect your lungs. So, with that case, and me saying that how hitbox and hurt boxes change as characters move, I'm going to showcase a few examples. So firstly, I'm going to set noob to block all, stand, and I'm going to set him to reversal throw. Just make sure that's right. Cool. Now as Jade, we have our mid back 3. So when I stand about here, back 3 would not hit noob, it would miss, like so. But if you do a move, if noob does a move that causes his hitbox to change, my back 3 will be able to hit. So for example, if I do back 1, him doing a reversal throw at that range moves his hurt box forward. So with that, I should be able to punish with back 3. If I can even do it right. And that works mainly because of the hurt box moving outwards, allowing me to whiff punish that throw. And so with learning how hitbox and hurt boxes change, there's also situations where you can exploit it. Another example, which is where I take over Noob briefly, is, and I want to set Jade to get up. There we go. So Jade's up 3. It's a pretty decent wake up attack, long range, very fast, and also safe on block. However, the issue with Jade's up 3 is that the hitbox is actually just around the staff, and it's very, very thin. So even though it's a mid, it will hit me standing, it will hit me ducking. But if I can get my hitbox low enough, I will be able to dodge that move. So something like a crouching poke, like a down 3, see how low Noob goes to the ground. If I time it right, you'll be able to go straight underneath Jade's wake up attack. Now, unfortunately, this only works with 3 characters in the game: Jade, Noob himself, which I'll show in a second, and Sub-Zero. Even though their up 3s are mid and safe, you can do something like this to dodge if you're on a read, and then if you time it right, maybe even get a punish. Oh wow, it's not what I wanted. But yeah, like so. And vice versa. If I switch over to Noob, well, switch over to control Jade and get Noob to do the same thing. It'll be easier if I get it right. Auto off. So sweet. He has this mid wake up attack, which is that high kick. But if I do a crouching poke, I dodge it as well. I can do my punish as well. Same case. Now this technique of doing crouching pokes underneath like mids is basically known as low profiling. You might have heard the term before. And this example that I just showcased is also one of the major reasons why Melina got so much hate in MKX, because when she did roll in the neutral, it low profiled so many mids that it rendered some matchups stupidly hard for those characters playing against Melina. So much so, it even went under down 1s. There were occasions where I've been able to roll underneath a character's down 1 and punish into a combo. And yes, that made people very salty. So low profiling, not many people are a fan of it. Now when it comes to hurt boxes, as I'll show the example of when you move and you do certain moves, a hurt box extends. There are some moves and some things that don't actually have hurt boxes. For example, I'm going to record Noob doing, no, I don't want to record doing the entire thing. Let me record it right. There we go. Now Noob's clone doesn't actually have a hurt box. So if I see him doing this and I try to punish with like back 2, I get hit by Noob's clone, but I can't hit him. And that's because in this specific move, Noob's hurt box is where the character is standing. So if I want to punish him, I have to do a move that actually reaches. Like so. So sometimes when fighting Noob Saibot, there are some strings where his clone comes out to end it. If you are having trouble dealing with those, you just have to bear in mind that is the clone has a hitbox to hurt you, but no hurtbox to hurt them. You have to hit Noob himself directly. And similarly, same can be said if I switch over to Jade real quick. And I get her to record doing back 2. Back 2 is a high, but it actually has no hurt box until where her left hand grips. So where her left hand grips on the start, that's the beginning of the hurt box. Anything beyond that has no hurt box. So if I wanted to do my down 2 crush and blow, it will go through part of the stuff, as you can see. But if I nail it, if I nailed it down to where her hand is on the stuff, it will work. Oops. There we go. But it's very easy to miss if you misspace it. Now with Noob it's a lot more easier because he's got a long range down 2, but for people who have got short range down 2s, you have to bear in mind if you want to like crush and blow after ducking a back 2, you need to make sure that your down 2 has to hit in that range where Jade is holding the stuff. So that that's so satisfying. Wow, that went very quick. That went about a lot quicker than I expected. Another thing with hitboxes is sometimes when you go for a throw, I'm sure it's happened to people before, when you're in the neutral game, you throw a poke out and the opponent throws at the same time, and then somehow he grabs you, even though you seem quite far away. That is basically simply the case of when you did your button, you extended your hurt box far enough for a throw to grab you. It's not really done on purpose, like no player can like read you're going to poke at this point, so I'm going to throw you and it's going to work. It's just usually accidental collisions, but they work out for the person doing the throw. I mean, I could try and showcase it, but I haven't really got a good example that would work well. Well, no, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. It might take me a number of times, but I'm going to try it anyway, just to showcase what I'm talking about. Let me pick another character that hasn't been displayed. Actually, I know who we're going to use.
Johnny Cage.
Let's go Johnny. Katana Khan. Let's go back to tournament. Right, so if I do this correctly, which I hope I do, or at least hope it doesn't take forever. Controlling the wrong character. Reversal on, throw. Right. So, in theory, if I space back 3 correctly, that's Johnny. Throw would not reach me. There you go. Literally, it has to be in max range. However, if I did that move and then I press the button like standing 2, that will extend my hurt box and Katana's throw should throw me out of the move. Now if I do this correctly, Katana should get a reversal throw counter. Let's see if I can do this right. Nope. Nope. There we go. Now, as I said before, trying to do that deliberately seems impossible. It only really happens in accidental collisions. But that is a case of a time when a throw should not have hit me, but because I did a move that extended my hurt box just slightly further forward, it allowed the throw to connect at a range where it normally wouldn't. In other games, like I remember in Street Fighter, there was a thing called Kara throws, which basically where you did an advancing move. It'll be similar like you doing an advanced mid like this, but you cancel it into a throw, and then it actually extends your throw range. So the throw box essentially becomes further. So you're allowed to throw people from a further distance away. So instead of here, it might be from here. That doesn't really exist in this game, but that's an example when extending hitboxes and hurtboxes happen to your advantage. So that is really it in terms of explaining how hitboxes and hurtboxes work, how they showcase, and how you potentially take advantage of it. If they did have them in practice mode, it definitely would have helped a lot in seeing how certain things work and interact, because I'm sure people playing this game have come across some mad scenarios and collisions. But that is really it, I guess. But in relation to hitboxes, I guess I can switch into anti-airs, because they are related to hitboxes. So when a character jumps in, actually, I'll just leave that. When a character jumps in and does a jumping kick, that kick obviously has the hitbox, but then surrounded it is the hurt box. And since that goes downwards, if I just record Katana jumping in, you're able to use something that has a hitbox, or a larger hitbox, that will connect. So, anti-airing generally is your way to defend yourself from people just jumping in, doing their jump kicks and their jump punches and starting their pressure, because usually it's their turn if you block a jump punch or jump kick low enough. It is very, very important in terms of improving as a player and enforcing your control in the matchup of knowing how to anti-air. Jumping can be seen as very powerful, because there are some very strong jump kicks in there in the game, and it's very important to find ways to mitigate that, because if people are just able to jump at you for free, it becomes hard for you to control the game. It becomes hard for you to enforce your own pressure, to take your own turns effectively, and also just to condition your opponent to remove something that they can't use consistently. Because if they start jumping and you keep anti-airing them, eventually they will stop jumping, and then that becomes something else you don't have to worry about in a match. So in terms of finding your anti-airs, did briefly go over it in the frame data lesson, where you basically look at startup and active frames for certain moves. So for Johnny, for example, let me just keep Katana still. Johnny has standing one, which is quick, a few active frames, but also has quite a decent hitbox. So that's quite good. Down one will be your other one. Harder to hit because you've got to do it crouching, but would be serviceable, especially for cross-ups. Standing 2 is quite quick, also has slightly more active frames than standing 1. And then of course you got down 2, longer, further hitbox, and then you've also got, in this variation, down back 3, which is Johnny's DP. So in terms of learning how to anti-air, what you need to find is your go-to anti-airs for certain situations. So for example, your down 2 might be shallow, so it would be better for people jumping in from a certain range. So let's control katana for a bit. So if I'm here and I'm jumping to do a kick here, something like standing 1 would work best for the range and for a combo, or down 2. If I'm jumping a bit more closer, maybe you use your down 2 because it's closer, or a shadow kick. And for cross ups, it'll be the same, either standing 1 or down 1. So let me just record katana jumping in and me doing a few anti-airs just to showcase. Record. So down 2. Good range. Oh, actually, that's quite good range actually. And you got standing 1, which you probably can convert into a combo. I don't know Johnny combos, to be honest. I should know Johnny combos. And then you have standing 2. If I can do it. That toasty, I know, right? Down 1s, which are harder to hit, but if you can do it, then do so. I obviously can't. There we go. So from a further distance, you can do it down 1. And then finally got his uppercut. Now, but the shoulder move was a special ability not available using every genre's variations. Yes, that's what I said. Just in this one he has that, but just to indicate that some characters do have moves that are specifically designed to anti-air. Whether they work or not is a different question, but generally speaking, standing normals are going to be your go-to in the examples I gave. Now it's important to know that it's important to learn an anti-air combo, because if you can get like your down 1 or your standing 1 and do it into a little combo and just take like 20% health each time, that adds up quite a lot and rewards you down the line. So it is very important to not only learn how to anti-air to take the ability of jumping away from your opponent, but also to get as much damage as possible in order to prevent people from doing it. And again, another reason why Melina was hated by MKX, because she had so many anti-airs which converted into so much damage that people were not happy with that. If for some reason your anti-airs are not the best, or you're struggling with them, I would say practice as often as you can, because you do need to drill it in. It's something that does need to be part of your muscle memory, but there are a few things you can do to I guess have temporary solutions until you get better anti-airs. What about people who jump all the time in the corner because they always get me up on wake up and my down 2 isn't fast enough? So are you saying watermelon as in you not being knocked down and then they jump, or you knocking someone down and then they jump as they're getting up? I think I worded that right. The first bit. So when you get knocked down and then you jump. So if you get knocked down and you do well, if you do a wake up, then that's your move that's you commit to, and there is no time to do another move. You're going to get hit by the falling jumping punch or jumping kick. I imagine your down two would be fast enough, but it might have to be better timed. Which characters are you using, out of interest? And I might be able to get an example in the bit, well, after this lesson. Might be go through an example. But regarding to the first, to the point of temporary solutions to deal with jumping, one is oh, Cetrion. Oh jeez, wow. Okay. At the end of the lesson, I'll go to Cetrion and we can have a little fun. Then again, her down two has a small hitbox, not hurtbox. Hurtbox is what hurts the opponent. Hitbox is what's going to hit. Another option is spacing out and doing something what's called trip garden. Now, trip garden in this game, it has different meanings in other fighters, but in this game, it's basically when an opponent does a jump in attack, but it whiffs, and then you punish the opponent, or at least take your turn as they are landing. So if you space the jumping right, you can get things like that. Not easy to time, but it helps if you time it right. But again, you need to have good spacing in order for that to work. So if opponents jumping at the wrong time, and you know you've got a far-reaching normal, you can do something like that to punish opponents on landing. Another example, as Dogen just said, maybe dashing and teleporting could work. If your character has good movement, you can dash underneath. If I can do it. There we go. But that varies from character to character. You need to have very good walk speed or very good dash animation in order to make that work. So will not be reliable for everybody. That is something you do have to explore with your character. And the other last thing is low profiling, as I discussed earlier. With low profiling the up freeze for Jade and Noob, you can low profile jump kicks as well, where they miss and then you can start your pressure. Again, not easy to do, but is another temporary solution if they're doing a jump that's close enough to you, that's going to cross over. Ideally though, as I said, it should really be practicing anti-airs as often as you can. Even if your opponent is jumping at you 5 times, 6 times a match, just keep trying to do anti-airs. It will be frustrating when they don't work, and it will cost you matches sometimes. But once you get it and get the timing like nailed down to a T, it becomes so important and so rewarding for matches going forward. Being able to take away that option from opponents is a big deal. It's a very big deal. So it's definitely one of the most important things to learn, the most important things to figure out and practice. I mean, ideally, standing normal into a combo would be best, but even if it's just a down 2 every single time, that's still, 14%. So that's something that's better than nothing, if you know what I mean. So yeah, practice anti-airs, and I think that's everything I kind of wanted to cover. which is surprisingly short for a lesson. I actually expected this to be longer, but hey, I guess short and sweet means I don't have to bore you forever. But yeah, just a refresh. Hitboxes and hurtboxes are with each character. Now, I should say, some people refer to hitboxes for everything. Some people say hitbox and hurtbox. They generally kind of mean the same thing. I prefer to say hitbox and hurtbox because they represent two different things. But if people talk about sometimes hitboxes being extended to get hit, they do mean hurtbox. It's confusing. I don't know why people just not stick to one terminology, but I didn't make the rules. But yes, just basically covered how they interact with each other, how they change via movements, and how they cause things to happen. Essentially how they allow whiff punishes to happen, how throws outside of ranges happen, how moves can get low profiled. Sometimes you'll get bugs where moves will go through an opponent, and that's basically because there might be a bug where a hitbox hasn't clashed with a hurtbox correctly. But in learning how or understanding how they work just helps you give knowledge on why certain things happen, and also maybe give you certain advantages of in a situation. Maybe certain things that you weren't being able to punish correctly, you would have an understanding of how you can punish them, or a different kind of move or a different kind of setup to exploit hitboxes for counterattacks, like with the up threes and up twos as well. And in relation to that, finding moves that does consistent anti-airs also really helps in terms of, well, it relates to hitboxes and how they interact with jump kicks and jump punches, as well as figuring out which ones are how quick moves, which ones have long active frames, and learning to anti-air and getting your anti-air combo. Cannot stress it's so important, because jumping is one of the first things that most players do, especially new players. It's the first thing you kind of need to learn how to shut down, because if you can get rid of jumping, you can focus everything on the ground here. So, as I said, very important to learn your anti-airs and practice them until they are second nature. So yes, that is basically it for lesson 6. Much shorter as I thought, but that's okay. For those watching on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully I'm going to do lesson 7 next week, which, thinking about it, there's only 2 topics left, I believe, on level 2. So if I have the time, I might do both of them next week, and then we'll be able to move on to level 3, which is the real hard-hitting stuff, the tough stuff. But yeah, for those on YouTube, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you later and see you next time. Peace.